You know, my parents died when I was 2 years old, and I got adopted.
Slavery, being a slave, I was bought for $10.
And, you know, being sexually abused as a child and everything like this, I began to become really withdrawn.
I do have an extensive criminal record. I started panhandling to get, because disability doesn't pay much.
Last year, in a span of about 6 months, I lost my job in the auto sector and I lost my girlfriend to breast cancer.
My guardians bought me and sent me here. I live here for 12 years now. I was bought for $10. I'm a slave. I was a slave.
I worked for 20 years and ended up getting addicted to heroin down here. And during the time I was working, the last 5 years, addicted to heroin, I was spending so much on heroin, it was insane. I ended up losing my job, ended up down here.
Hello, my name's Jason. Well, when I was younger, my mother and father used to fight lots, and the Ministry of Social Services apprehended me, and I was placed into foster care when I was 13 years old. And then my life went to drugs, and for a few years was working, and then I started getting into the streets and stuff again, and I started getting into more drugs, and jail eventually led to jail,
Well, my name is Baby Lin. I'm 61 years old. I'm from Bafnang, Greenland. And I live here for 12 years. I live under a bridge. I sit here at this spot for 2.5 hours. I'm an Inuit, half Indian, half Inuit.
I came from Ontario, St. Catharines, all over lower mainland Ontario. My dad worked for Bell Canada. He had a traveling job. It was upper middle class family. We had 2 cars, a boat, a cottage, a nice house, fridge always full.
I'm originally from Langley, BC. About 20 miles from Vancouver. Totally different growing up out there than ending up down here.
Hey, Daniel, and I'm from New Brunswick. Been here since '94.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo, and I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario. I've been living in British Columbia for approximately 8 years. and I'm doing this because I'm broke. I did a year straight in jail, and I just got out last October 10th of 2009. That's when I was released from prison. I am seeking employment and a better standard of living, but basically where I'm staying at right now is in Gastown. It's a really like shithole place on the east side of Vancouver, right? It's a room the size of a washroom with a TV in it, and there's rats, bed bugs. Basically, it's just a disgusting place, right? And it's a step up from the street because before that I was on the street. So
It's Pitt and Rennan, Vancouver, BC. I used to have a job working as a window cleaner. My one leg is titanium. Both legs were broken. The other leg's broken. One leg's titanium from the knee down and the ankle. The other leg was just a compound fracture. I broke 3 ribs and I broke my hand. Right here, I broke my head. I got a plate in my head.
I just wanted to just say about panhandling and homelessness. You know, for me, it's kind of a two-way street when it comes to panhandling and being homeless. And for me, sitting out in the street, you know, with people going by and asking for spare change and everything like that is, you know, it's a little bit different than being homeless. Whereas what I mean is, when you're totally homeless and you're afraid of the world and everything like this, as this picture indicates right now, you know, you're sitting in an alley with no hope. And that's where I was at one time in my life. I would sit in alleys like this, and I would drink and I would use dope, and this is the way it was. You know, it got to the point where I didn't want to be out on the street with people and everything like this, too afraid that I isolated and then started to come and hang out in alleys, and this became home for me.
My dad got me in the union when I was 16 years old, lied my age. I was supposed to be 18, but I looked 18. It was a good wage in 1975. I remember starting at $10 an hour.
I still dream about my slavery, being a slave. I still dream. I still have nightmares.
I can't get a job because I got ran over by a drunk driver a couple of years ago. I'm kind of screwed for the rest of my life.
My wife had left me of 15 years. She drained 80 grand out of my bank account. I was a high-rise window washer. I was trying to stay at the church. She got me evicted from my house because she damaged the place where I lived, my ex. Then I was at the church. I'd been a volunteer at the church for 20 years. They told me I'd have to be in at 6 o'clock at night, or I'd have to find somewhere else to sleep because I have the dog. I wasn't going to give up my dog.
Got a place through the housing project. Yeah, I've had the HIV virus since 1995. Actually, I'm doing pretty good right now.
I have to go to probation every 2 or 3 days, so a lot of my life's like spent at the probation office and going in and out of court. Once I get the probation over with and stuff, I'm basically going to adult upgrading, like I'm taking like grade 10 English and grade 10 math.
For me, you know, these alleys and, you know, the dumpsters and everything like this was a way for me that I made a living. You know, if I could get something, you know, worth salvaging out of a dumpster that I could take out on the street to sell, or whatever the case may be, you know, that this is what I had to do at one particular time in my life. I was in the power of addiction, and these alleys and these streets became my home. And for me, it was a real lonely life, but it was the only life at that particular time that I knew.
I have a wife, her name's Yuka. She's in Japan right now. We were married on May 13th, 2008. And now it's 2 years, just over 2 years now. And she can't work because of the harsh immigration how do you say, just the immigration delays. So we're trying to get our permanent residence card, so it's very hard right now.
Sometimes people come to me crying because I live on the street. I love people here. Different cultures, different language. They don't speak the same language as I do. I speak 4 different native languages. I don't have no family here, but I have 5 kids, and now they send me the video of them instead of writing letters because I can't read. I love God. What He did for me, I will always believe in. I will always love God. But I have to live on the street, collect pennies. Well, I'm used to that. I'm used to living that way all my life. Being an ex-slave. But I have my freedom now. I'm no longer a slave. Been free for 10 years. I was bought for $10.
Went by, I had to spend 5 months of winter out in the park with my dog.
I live under a bridge northwest from here. It takes me 2.5 hours to walk here. So if I have enough change for a bus ticket, that's what I take the bus to get here. I wake up 3 o'clock every morning. Whereas when I wake up, I exercise and I eat whatever food I have.
You know, unfortunately, you know, my parents died when I was 2 years old, and I got adopted. And you know, and again, I'd like to say that that was really really good. But unfortunately, you know, I got in with a family that weren't so loving and caring, and just, you know, through different childhood issues and you know, being sexually abused as a child and everything like this, I began to become really withdrawn from people. And you know, I learned at a very young age, you know, don't trust, don't talk, don't feel. You know, and that's kind of how I ran my life as a young child and into my early teens. And you know, once I found alcohol and drugs, you know, that really changed my life, you know. And you know, the more I got involved in with alcohol and drugs, the more addicted I became. And for me, you know, this is where my addiction led me, is to this.
I didn't think it possible in Canada for a man to be put on the streets when he's worked all his life and paid into having these, the government to be able to fall back and take care of us when in need. And now that in need, they act like it's their money they're giving me, not money I was working for. There's trouble with getting anything, and it's slow, but it's okay. I've got lots of patience. I understand they're short-staffed and they can't look after everybody. There are people that scam them too, so it's not as easy as it seems.
My hope is to find a trailer or an old van to live in. At least I'll have a much better place for living instead of living on the street. But yeah, it's okay. I haven't lived over like this.
If I can't still clean windows and rappel, that I could get into training the younger guys and setting them up and helping out. I've worked with WCB on helping with rules and regulations. I've worked with the fire department on training the firemen to rescue people. I've gone through all kinds of schooling for this, and I just have to update my tickets. So hopefully everything the puzzle will put the pieces back in place. everything's going to work out in the long run.
Basically, once I get certified diploma from the Vancouver School Board, I'll have grade 10 education, right? And I am planning to enlist in the Canadian Army, even though I do have an extensive criminal record, but I am of good character. And the thing is, I am trying my best to better my life, right? I made some stupid mistakes in my past.
Yeah, there's lots of hope that things will get better. More work and no street. And yeah, happiness and hope. There's lots of hope. Things will get better. It's just a matter of time.
But it's getting better.
Yeah, I hope things get better in the future. They have to be.
I have to think the future is going to be brighter.
Living here is okay, but still it's hard, especially being an ex-slave. I was a slave most of my life. I was a slave when I was only 8 years old. I have my freedom. I'm looking for a home. I want the home.
But today things are totally different for me today. If you would have told me 14 months ago, Ken, there is a better way, I probably would have laughed at you, after spending time like this. But I've been very fortunate and very blessed. Today I'm not sitting in these alleys. Today I try to be a productive member of society. I work. I do my best to help people. And the type of work that I do is I help people that were in this similar situation. And for me, it's very rewarding to know that, if I could just get one person, to hear my story or to relate to something that I have said, it makes me feel good to be able to give back in that sort of way. And, today I can honestly say I enjoy being clean and sober.
All of the days seem to slip into nights. Don't let the magic get too far out of sight. When you find yourself riding both sides of the fence, rise up, claim your innocence. You say your life is slipping away. Who do you face at the end of the day, when all of the struggles become too intense? Rise up, claim your innocence. We are born innocent. We are born innocent. We are born radiant. We are born whole. Some days you remember your light from within, gives you reasons to live, whether you lose or you win. Now there is no need for defense. Rise up, are born whole. God is alive, God is well, living on the beach or in some hotel. God is the stranger, so familiar to face. God is the innocence time can't erase.